Hello and welcome. This is Little Wave with your stars within. Today I want to talk about the polar opposites or the axes in astrology. And this is a very important concept for those who are interested in astrology as a deeper spiritual science, not just predictive or personality, though it can tell you some of those things. From a philosophical perspective, we live in the world of duality. For everything you could name, hot, there's cold. Wet, there's dry, right? For every trait that you can name, there's an opposite. And that's such the way the world is because we're in the world of duality. By being in duality, we must recognize that there's some abstract, philosophical, some conceptual possibility of a unified wholeness, a unity instead of duality. And in unity, those opposites would resolve or dissolve into each other, into a greater understanding, a higher understanding of what that total axis was about. So we experience many things. We talk about much of the astrology as opposites, but I'd like to say that they're not opposites. There is singularity. They're a pole. There's a north and a south to every pole, but it's still ultimately a singular concept. And so when you start to view the astrological opposites as actually extremes of a singular concept, you start to really hone in to the deeper meaning of these signs and understand why sometimes someone who's this sign can look more like their opposite, or why people at more extremes of their signs who don't have balancing energies may have more challenges. They have strengths because they have a lot of this one side, but challenges because it's imbalanced. The more we come to the middle of our psyche, the more joy and peace that we'll have. So I talk about these axes in my book, Sacred Astrology, The Psychology of Your Stars Within. Many of you know I'm a licensed professional counselor, and there's this psychological aspect woven in to the greater, deeper aspects of astrology that's in this book, available on Amazon. And the axes, as I see them, we have Aries and Libra. They are the axis of relating. This is where on one end, Aries can be very selfish. And on the other, Libra can be so selfless that it's more codependent. And so in the middle, in the proper, correct amount, given the right amount for the particular situation, time, scenario, etc., the right ingredients, we get the perfect balance of I and we. We understand how to relate. It's not just that we understand I, it's not just that we understand we. We understand how to properly relate. We may shift the proper amounts given the scenario, type of relationship, history. Those specifics, the right amount is not a formula. It's an understanding of the whole pole that allows us to say, oh, I understand the deeper wisdom here, and I'm able to utilize both poles as a single concept, both sides of the axes, right? Or both poles as a single axis to say, I understand how to relate. So for those who have planets or points on the Taurus-Scorpio, we're talking about the axis of growth. Taurus wants stability. It has to do with the food, right? This relates to the body will grow, where Scorpio has to do with the destruction, and in the body has to do with expelling. And so this axis is not just, we need all stability for growth, or we need to destroy it all so that there's room for growth, new growth, right? A forest fire can create opportunity for new growth. We can't just build on the old. And so understanding this, we go, oh, at different times. The new idea, the young seedling, this needs a lot of stability. Something that's gotten stagnant might need a lot of destructive. And both of these are aspects of growth. So we start to, again, the wisdom of growth and not just so sided. Let's say you have a lot of Taurus and not a lot of Scorpio. You may be more inclined, likely, to the stability, the way it's been, don't want change, don't want the destruction. But if you properly balance your personality as you age through proper spiritual growth, right? Jung talked about the most important aspect of being is balance. Without balance, the entire cosmos falls apart almost immediately. We must have balance. And so in coming to greater balance, we bring our whole lives to a higher octave. In the Gemini-Sagittarius axis, we're looking at truth. And they both go after truth in a different way, right? Truth, wisdom. They're all a wisdom, really. And so Gemini is going to stay local, talk to people, learn lots of stories, read lots of books, do lots of research. It's going to know a whole lot about a whole lot of things. And that's their attempt at finding truth. Sagittarius is going to travel far and wide to cultures very different from their own, maybe in languages very different from their own. Maybe they're going to seek spiritual knowledge, ancient knowledge. And they have this more philosophical or broad brushstroke approach. They're two ends of the same spectrum. Both are needed, but they're both aiming at truth. When we get to Capricorn and Cancer and Capricorn is maybe the better way to say that around the zodiac, we're looking at the axis of support. This is our mother-father axis. We have Cancer as the mother, and beings do need to be nurtured, the emotions, sensitivity to the underlying subtle communications. You know, Cancer gets a bad rap for being so highly sensitive, but the truth is they're picking up on things that are there. They have that million-mile antenna, and they do hear that subtle attack, or they do feel the subtle pull away. It doesn't mean that they're never projecting. It doesn't mean that they're never fearful, but they do have a good antenna for that, and they can pick up on it before the average person would. On the other side, we have the Capricorn. We have more of the fatherly energy, the hard work, the discipline. We don't have time for those emotions. We're going to get up on a Saturday and, get this job done. Both are needed. That young being given only Cancer motherly energy will come to a point that they become spoiled. They will become weak, that the father Capricornian energy is needed. But that being given only the Capricorn energy will have a closedness, will have a block to their own heart, to their own emotions. So both the nurture and discipline, right? The river flows best with strong boundaries. We've got the water that nourishes, that encourages life, that not just grows plants, but brings life to the river for its nourishment. But it wouldn't move and stay healthy and stay clean if it didn't have strong riverbanks, strong Capricornian boundaries. When we get to Aquarius and Leo and Aquarius, I'm trying to say it in the order of the zodiac, we get to the axis of creation, understanding this dynamic mix of the creativity inherent in both. Leo likes to play the star of the show. Look at me, I'll be the center stage, much like the fire in the center of the community. We all gather around and it brings us together. So we come together to watch this wonderful Leo, entertainment. Aquarius, on the other hand, is more distant at a physical level, but they're innovative, creating opportunities for people to come together and maybe, say, communicate through long distances through innovative technologies. Or they would be the one to put the whole playhouse together and, create the environment, do the ticket sales and the marketing. They bring the whole community together to watch this play that the Leo is going to star in. Funny enough, the Aquarius may not show up, but they're very happy to have created the opportunity for the community and for the creativity. And so they both have very creative ways of being in life, from different subjective and objective perspectives. And when you can see both, instead of be identified with one and demonize the other, but when you can see the value and the exchange of both and the right amount at the right time in the right way, oh, suddenly the wisdom of life opens. And it's not so hard. Now it makes sense because I'm not so imbalanced that I'm aligned on one side of a pole, creating an imbalanced life, but rather I have availability of the entire axis. And then lastly, we have the Virgo Pisces, which is the essence of being or the axis of being. And the way I like to think about this is Virgo is very involved in the details of being. Misused energy, of course, sometimes is like alphabetizing the soup cans. But I often look at the detail and the efficiency, Virgo's at harvest time. And if we think about the amount of detail needed for health, for survival, Virgo's got the skills for that. But then let's even look at how some of the different types of monks type of that kind of living. There's a whole lot of do these mantras or do these prayers in this direction, this many times, eat this kind of food, sleep in these kind of hours, wear these kind of clothes. There's a whole lot of details involved at the physical level to bring the being, the spirit, into the 3D. And the Pisces has that connection to the spirit. It just wants to float around and be in the being. And sometimes it can do that, and sometimes it gets lost by its escapism, its addictive tendencies, its delusions and illusions, and it needs that grounding, detailed Virgo energy to really bring that potential into the 3D. So if we understand these axes, again, okay, I need to bring more Virgo, I need to bring more detail, more, 3D physical work in. Or no, I've been just doing all the details and I'm not doing any floating. I'm not listening for those messages. So the where, the when, the how much. This opens up life because you're starting to tap closer. You're understanding that these poles are closer to the unity. These are more initial divisions of oneness, the essence of the divine. So we can't fully conceive of unity. I mean, we can with our mind to some degree, but we're not experiencing it. We're experiencing duality in the way that we live, the way that I see me and you, right? This and that, us and them. This is dualities. And the more that we can close that gap of duality and get closer and closer to unity, it's like we get just a taste or a scent of what that unity is. Like any gestalt, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So the unity is greater than the sum of all these axes and all these poles and all these essences. And yet, as we can go from less parts into larger pieces that are closer to the oneness, the closer we get to understanding our own essential nature and working harmoniously with life. I hope that's helpful. Feel free to check out my website, Your Stars Within. If I'm licensed in your state, I offer psychological counseling. In any state, I offer astrological readings as well as chakra mentorship. So reach out, let me know how I can be of assistance, and I hope this video is helpful. Thank you. Bye.